Hi, I'm Miss Joanne, and I'm here to tell you about the book The Day I Was Erased by Lisa Thompson. And this book is about a boy named Maxwell Beckett. Maxwell Beckett lives with his mom and dad, who are so busy fighting that they don't pay much attention to Maxwell, and his sister, who he used to be really close to and used to be able to talk things out with, but they've kind of just drifted apart. And he also has a neighbor named Reg, who he loves to go and visit with. And whenever things go wrong, that's where he goes. Well, because Maxwell is a troublemaker, even when he does things by accident, he gets blamed for it. So he's always in trouble. Well, one day, he finds out that Jed and Baz, the TV roadshow, were going to be the special guests at the 100th anniversary celebration of his school. And he is so excited. But of course, he gets himself into trouble. So his teacher and the principal tell him that, Maxwell, if you do one more thing wrong, you're not coming to this celebration. And you guessed it, he did one more thing wrong. So he's not allowed to go to the celebration, and he's devastated because he loves the Jed and Baz TV roadshow. And he decides he's going to sneak in. And he does. And of course, everything gets out of control. He gets into a lot of trouble. The celebration gets messed up. And he's so upset that he runs to the person that he always goes to, Reg. Now, while he's with Reg, he's going through a cabinet that he considers a creepy cabinet, because in that cabinet are things that Reg says are mermaid scales, and there's an old leather shoe that Reg says belongs to a dead pirate, and there's an old globe and a wooden egg and a dodo bird's feather, and Maxwell just thinks it's really creepy. But he's going through it, things fall out, and as he's putting the items back into the cabinet, he says to himself, and I'll quote, he says, "Sometimes I think everyone would be better off if I'd never existed in the first place." And when he thought that, he didn't realize that the item he was holding, and you'll have to read the book to find out which one of the items caused this to happen, because he doesn't even know at first, and he has to figure it out too. While he's holding this item, saying the statement that he wished he never existed, that people would be better off without him around, he becomes erased. Now, he's physically still there, but nobody knows who he is. And everything that he has touched in the past have changed. For instance, when he was younger, he accidentally broke the front walk gate. It's no longer broken. The woman who lives next door to him, he purposely decapitated her plastic flamingo, and now the head's back on. And he figured, oh, somebody fixed the gate and somebody bought a new flamingo. But then he realized his favorite dog, the dog he loves, the dog he lives for, his name is Monster. Monster is nowhere to be found. He can't find Monster because Monster was erased too. But he wasn't erased in the same way Maxwell was. You'll have to read to find out what happened to Monster. And when he went to his house and knocked on the door because he couldn't find the key to get in, someone else answered it. His family no longer lives there. So he realizes now that no one, not his best friend, not his family, nobody knows who he is. So he goes back to Reg's house and says, I need to stay here. And of course, Reg doesn't know who he is either, but he's a kind old man and says, okay, you could stay. And now Maxwell has to figure out why he was erased, where is his family, and how is he going to get back for everybody to know who he is. You're going to have to read the story to get all those answers. Because if I tell you, then there's no point in reading the story. So go ahead and read the story. It's a great story, and it really shows you that everybody matters, whether you're a troublemaker or not. And maybe, just maybe, you shouldn't cause so much trouble. Enjoy the story. Countdown to Disaster, 300 Minutes of Danger by Jack Heath. This is a book with 10 short stories, and each short story takes place over 30 minutes. And alongside the story, you will see a countdown, so you know just how much time they have left till the danger, hopefully, is over. Now, some of the stories are interconnected. For instance, the first story is a boy, George. He's on a plane. The only two people are on the plane is himself and the pilot, and they're flying over the mountains, and George has a snowboard with him because he's going for a week camp to better his skills as a snowboarder. And the plane is not flying properly, and George is very nervous. So he says to the pilot, "Is everything okay?" And the pilot's like, "Oh yeah, sure it is." But then the pilot realizes, no, it really isn't. And he comes out of the cockpit and he puts on a parachute and tells George, "Put on your parachute, there's one right over there, and when you jump out of the plane, pull the cord and your parachute will go up." And the pilot jumps and leaves George to fend for himself. Pilot doesn't help him put on the parachute. Pilot doesn't jump alongside of him, doesn't make sure that George is going to reach safety. So now George runs over, finds the other parachute, and realizes that that parachute is not going to work. So what is George going to do? Now, here comes the excitement and the danger. Will George survive? How will he survive? And how will he get out of that plane safely without a parachute before it crashes? Read the first story in this short story collection. Now, if you continue to read, you're going to come across another story where this young girl is with her mom and dad, and they're in hazmat suits, and they are at a lake where there is radioactive particles, and it's causing damage to the town downstream. So they're there to test it and see if the radioactivity has subsided. And while they're working, they see this plane that looks like it's completely out of control, and realize as it gets closer that there's no pilot in that plane. And it's heading right towards this lake that's filled with radioactive contamination. Will this mom, dad, and girl survive, and how? And their countdown is 30 minutes long as well. Now you read some more and you'll find other stories, like a young boy is walking the streets and he sees two men come out of a bank. And these two men are wearing trench coats, and one of them looks like he has a very large gun under the trench coat. So he calls the police, and the police don't take him seriously, say they're gonna send somebody, but don't seem like it's very urgent. So Kim is his name, Kim decides to follow these two men to see where they're going, so when the police finally get there, he can tell them where these two men went to. Well, he ends up getting kidnapped, and now he has to get himself to safety and out of danger. Find out what they've stolen. And when you read another one of the short stories, you'll find that it is also connected to the bank robbery. Actually, two of them are. So read, and if you read them in order, you will eventually come across the other stories that are interconnected. There's also another one that has two stories that are interconnected, and that is about a virus. What's a virus, you ask? A virus is a virus caused by a fly. And this virus is very deadly, and they're trying to find a cure for it. And when they do find something that will help the people, of course, everybody wants it, and they want it now. So you have a couple stories where you have people who are struggling with the virus and struggling with the ability to get the vaccine. So read your 10 stories. They are very quick, they're fun, they're filled with excitement, they're filled with adventure, and they're filled with danger. I hope you enjoy all 10 of them.
Hi, it's Miss Bailey, and I'm going to talk to you about the book Jayla Johnson by Joy Jones. Jayla is ready for a change. She misses her best friend who moved away last year. She is tired of being an only child, and she is also very tired of being overlooked in her large family. She's not sure how her life is going to change until Thanksgiving. At Thanksgiving dinner, her mind is blown when she learns that her mom used to be a double Dutch champion back in the day. Her mom is more of like this accountant type, so Jayla just cannot see her mom doing this. After watching some YouTube videos on her cousin's phone and finally getting her mom to show her a jump or two after dinner, Jayla is hooked. She wants to follow in her mom's footsteps, she wants to become a champion, and she's wondering if that might be a way that she can stand out, both at school and in her large family. She starts to recruit for a team, and right away there's a competition that they have to prepare for. But there are some setbacks that have Jayla wondering if her dream really is going to come true. At the same time, Jayla's mom is struggling with some underlying health issues that Jayla doesn't think she's taking as seriously as she should. And Jayla kind of struggles with this and wants to help her mom. So Jayla might feel discouraged, but she's not going to give up. And she might just learn that there is more to life than being a champion. I really enjoyed reading this, and I hope you like this book. With you. This mystery is set in a small town full of quirky characters. The main character is Cooper, better known as Coop, and he helps out at his mom's bookstore/cafe along with his two best friends. He lost his father 5 years ago, but he has a really close relationship with his grandfather. One day, everything changes. There's a human skeleton that is found underneath the local playground. The town was going to renovate it, but of course discovered these bones. So everyone is talking about it, including the kids. They're all kind of fascinated, like what could have happened. However, a wedding ring is found at the scene that ties to a cold case mystery from ages ago. And it's a mystery involving Coop's own grandmother, Tabby, who supposedly left town decades ago. And now the evidence and the gossip implicates Coop's grandfather as the murderer. But while family secrets are popping up all over the place, Coop knows his grandfather could not have committed this crime. So Coop and his friends set out to solve this case and find out what really happened to Tabby, his grandmother. This book ended up having some really good twists that you just don't see coming. I would say that Coop and the reader do not know the scoop until the very end. You might even have to reread this book to catch all the clues that are kind of sprinkled throughout the story. It's not a gruesome book, but obviously it does talk about murder. So if you are into edgier mysteries, you might want to pick this one up, and I hope you enjoy it.
Okay, hi, I'm Mrs. Mendelson. I'm going to tell you a couple of books that I'm thankful for. This one is American as Paneer Pie by Supriya Kelkar. And this is one of those Own Voices novels, so it takes place in a suburb of Detroit. Leica is an 11-year-old Indian American girl, and she is the only Desi in her suburb, in her town. And a Desi is somebody of Indian or South Asian descent who does not live in South Asia anymore. So they either live in America or they live in England or another European country. She has her best friend Noah, and people ask her questions all the time, like, oh, what is that smell, and where's the dot on your head? Why don't you have that? And for the most part, she ignores it. She really just wants to fly under the radar and not confront anybody. And then a new neighbor moves in across the street. Her name is Avantika, and Leica is very, very excited until she meets her and realizes that she was not born in America. She was born in India and still has that Indian accent. So when Avantika goes to school and people start teasing her, she stands up and she basically tells people to back off, and this is the way she is. She's not afraid of any of that. And then later on, a racist incident happens that affects Leica and her family. And will this be the catalyst that encourages Leica to stand up for what she believes is right? Will she speak up to defend herself? Okay. This is also a new book. This is called A Place at the Table. All right. This is told in alternate narration by the two authors, Saadia Faruqi and Laura Chauvin. All right. So the first character is Sarah. She's Pakistani American. She used to go to a special Muslim school, but now she's going to the local middle school. So she's going from a school that had a total of 100 kids to a school that has 1,000 kids. She's shy. It's difficult for her to make friends, and she feels like she's an outsider. She doesn't dress in the traditional Pakistani clothes. She doesn't wear a hijab, but her mother does start this after-school cooking class, and it's specializing in Southeast Asian food. Her mother does wear the traditional dress and wears a hijab. So she has to go to the cooking class because her mother doesn't want to leave her home alone. But Sarah really likes to do art more so than cooking. So she's sitting in the back and doing her artwork, and the rest of the class filters in. And then we have Elizabeth. She's a Jewish American girl. Her mother is an immigrant from the United Kingdom. Elizabeth is a huge Doctor Who fan. She's got Doctor Who clothes in her bedroom. She's got posters all over the place. Even her sneakers are Doctor Who. But her mother's not much of a cook. Her father travels a lot, and she, when she finds out about this cooking class, she wants to learn how to cook so she can cook authentic food. And it turns out she really, really loves South Asian food. But the class numbers are uneven in this after-school program, and Elizabeth doesn't have a cooking partner. So Sarah decides to join her and help her out. So they become partners in the cooking class, and then they realize that they're in some other classes together. There are a lot of cultural differences, but the girls have to work really hard to overcome these differences to become friends.
Hello everyone, my name is Miss Sarah from the Lucy Robbins Wells Library. I'm one of the children's librarians here, and I'm going to talk to you guys about some of my recommendations for 5th and 6th grade readers. So one of my first recommendations is the book Finally Something Mysterious by Doug Cornett. So this is great if you love a good mystery. The town of Bellwood, where our story is set, can feel though pretty boring to amateur sleuth Paul Marconi and his friends, who all like to call themselves the one and onlys, because they're all only children. But then one morning, something mysterious finally happens. The front lawn of Mr. Babbage is covered with rubber duckies. Is it a prank? Mr. Babbage is the reigning champion of the annual Bratwurst Bonanza, which is coming up very shortly. Maybe someone was just trying to psych him out. Or maybe it was something a little bit more nefarious. Well, the police aren't so sure. They think it was just something silly and nothing to write home about, so they collect their duckies and they move on with the case. But the one and onlys, they decide to investigate a little further. Is it maybe the cranky neighbor? The guy with the broken taillight? Did he do it? Or was it the girl with all the mud on her shoes? And why? The one and onlys are on the case and they're going to solve this mystery. But if that weren't enough, all of a sudden now outside of town, there's wildfires burning, and signs start to pop up everywhere that say the conquistador is coming. and the annual Bratwurst Bonanza is turning out to maybe have a few more surprises in store. Maybe Bellwood wasn't so boring after all. Read, finally, something mysterious. The next book I want to talk to you guys about is called Strange Birds, a field guide to ruffling feathers. It's written by Celia, Pérez. So this is the story of 4 girls who could not be more different from each other. There's Ophelia, who's a wannabe reporter who's always looking for a good story. Lane, who's an artist who's pretty fed up with her parents because they've sent her to live with her grandmother for the summer while they finalize their divorce. Aster, who feels more comfortable in a kitchen than being around kids her own age, but has one summer to figure out how to be a real kid before she starts public school in the fall. And Kat, who's hiding a secret that she's been secretly skipping Flora meetings, which is a local scout group. But she has a good reason for skipping. You see, every summer the Floras crown a Miss Flora, who basically represents everything what the Floras try to be. But they crown Miss Flora using a hat that was made of endangered bird feathers. And Kat is a bird lover, and those birds all had to die for their feathers to be used. And she wants the Floras to stop using that hat, to use something a little bit more humane to show that they can change with the times. But when they refuse, that's when she decides to start skipping meetings. But it's also what brings the 4 girls together. And when they all meet, well, it's not exactly love at first sight, but they bond over a shared mission. They all want to try to get the Floras to stop using that hat. So, in their quest for justice, independence, and an unforgettable summer, they form their own scouting group. They call it the Ostentation of Others and Outsiders. And they have one goal: to stop the Floras from using their hat and try to convince them to change with the times. Think they can do it? Well, you'll have to read and find out. So definitely check out Strange Birds, a field guide to ruffling feathers.
Hello, I'm Rebecca. I'm here with my November book picks for books that I'm thankful to have read. And my first book is called You Go First by Erin and Entrada Kelly. How do you make a friend? And what makes a good friend? These are questions you might consider when reading You Go First. This book takes place from Monday to Saturday in the lives of Ben Boxer and Charlotte Lockard. Ben and Charlotte are super intelligent kids who play online Scrabble against each other. Charlotte lives outside of Philadelphia, and Ben lives in a small town in Louisiana. Both are having trouble adjusting to the social challenges of middle school and have family situations weighing on them. This book is told in chapters that alternate between Charlotte and Ben's stories. Ben has no friends, is small for his age, and loves Harry Potter. He decides to run for student council, and despite a great strategy, campaigning does not go well for Ben, and he becomes the target of bullies. Charlotte has one friend, Bridget, who has been her friend since elementary school. Recently, Bridget is interested in new clothes, joining the art club, boys, and what the cool kids are doing, while Charlotte is interested in playing Scrabble, dissecting a starfish in science class, and expanding her rock collection. What do you do when one friend is ready to move on? As Ben and Charlotte deal with their challenges, they begin talking to each other on the phone. Can this connection be something that helps them through this tough time? I really like this book for the strong characters of Ben and Charlotte, who seem to have a really good understanding of who they are, but are struggling to find their place and friends in middle school. This is a great choice for realistic fiction fans. So once again, You Go First by Erin and Entrada Kelly. Thank you. My second choice for my November book pick of books that I'm thankful to have read is The Extraordinary Adventures of Ordinary Boy, The Hero Revealed by William Boniface. And this book is part of a series. There are 2 more that we have in the library from the series. So, have you ever wished you had superpowers? What superpower would you wish for? Everyone in Superopolis has a superpower. Everyone, that is, except for Ordinary Boy. And not all powers are equal, and many have their limitations. For example, Ordinary Boy's best friend Stench has the power of super strength, but with that comes a super strong odor. That's how he gets his name. Also, not all residents use their superpowers for good. There are also supervillains. Superopolis's most famous resident do-gooder and the leader of the League of Ultimate Goodness is the Amazing Indestructo, or AI. His superpower is that he is indestructible and cannot be destroyed, and he flies around with the help of a rocket pack. The Amazing Indestructo has a TV show and all sorts of products emblazoned with his image. Ordinary Boy and his friends are huge fans. Ordinary Boy has formed a club with his friends called the Junior Leaguers, and the members are Stench, his best friend, Halogen Boy, his superpower is that he can emit a bright light which is enhanced by drinking apple juice, also Plasma Girl, she can turn into a puddle of goo, and Tadpole, he has a super long and useful tongue. And the newest Amazing Indestructo product is a set of collector cards. An Ordinary Boy and his friends decide to work together to complete the set of 64 cards. This quest leads them to the headquarters of Indestructo Industries, the makers of all the Amazing Indestructo merchandise, and eventually into the grips of Superopolis's worst supervillain, Professor Braintrain. Can the Amazing Indestructo save the day? Is Ordinary Boy's hero worthy of his admiration? I hope that you'll find the humor and see how funny Ordinary Boy is. The superpowers that some of the residents have just really are so silly that they make me laugh. If you've ever wanted to be a superhero or love superhero books, this is a really fun read. Thank you.